Thank you for checking out New Dice, a new episode today, and it might actually be a quick one. You might not have to sit here for 20 minutes of me babbling through thoughts. Something happened in my game Tuesday night I wanted to share. New GM to new GM, or if you're an old GM who just is looking for some resets because you just got caught up in the mundane over and over. I do the same thing each week, and you just need to remember why you started GMing. Maybe you can get a little bit of that here. Thanks for checking out the channel. We are going to go over a couple things from my session last week, a way that you might be able to improve the engagement from your players, and then just a very little something about writing the narrative with your NPCs or with your PCs that you can bring to your table. I think you might have heard it said a lot, but we're gonna get into that here in a little bit. Timestamps are down in the details. We'll put a bow on last week's episode by reading some comments, or maybe a comment at the end. Okay, what happened in my session? Well, I had been struggling with something in my games, and I think it is very important that you introduce a big bad. And I had been going back and forth on this. I had never done it. And so watching YouTubers, Dungeons and Dragons YouTubers, and their advice, I had seen a lot of different things of get your big bad in immediately to like just leave him in the background for a long time. You might not even know who it is, and let that kind of happen naturally. And I've been struggling with this. And I think one of the big things was a dungeon tuber that I liked had said, just hold off on that and let's build story with little things. And that was what I was doing. I think if you watched last episode, you knew there were some frustrations with how I was approaching my session. I was getting to this point where I was like, oh man, what am I doing? This is not good. This is not fun. I introduced a bad guy. My session Tuesday night was awesome. So here's what I did. I've got still a big bad guy that has not made his appearance, but I needed something. I needed to spark it up. The bad guy was what I needed. So I was running through in my campaign. I had inserted a bunch of little first to third level one-shots, or like just little dungeons that I had found between Wizards of the Coast books and some stuff from Drive-Thru RPG. So we had gone through a couple of them, and the one that they landed on that they just went through was the first cave from the Caves of Chaos. And at the end of that cave, there is a baby dragon wormling. Okay, cool. That's cool, right? And so they ended the session 2 weeks ago having found this little baby dragon. And I thought, okay, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with this? This is where my session got sparked in, and this is where I now have an opinion on something that I was just hearing others' opinions about. I can share it with you. I spent the first 5 to 15 minutes of our session with these characters in this baby dragon wormling, and I didn't know what they were going to do with it, but I assumed, knowing my characters, they were going to try to either free it or keep it or take it somewhere, and that's what they did. And I knew enough about my characters, my players, to know they weren't going to try to kill it, but I just treated it like a little puppy dog. And I did something with that dragon to every character, the 4 people at the table. I made sure that this dragon interacted with each one of them in a positive way, so as to show a connection this dragon was trying to make with the people at the table. And we spent 5 to 15 minutes, like I said, going through that. They were talking through what to do with it. They settled on taking it back to the city that they've been doing quests for, and seeing if anyone there knew what the story was with it, leaving it there, just maybe getting more information about it there. And so they're on their way back to town, and I thought, here's the time. So swooping in was one of the, I guess it'd be a colonel or a sergeant or whatever it is, right-hand man of the main bad guy, who I don't have fleshed out yet. But this guy came swooping in and let the PCs know, you have something that belongs to me. And I thought in my head, because of listening to Dungeon Tube stuff, there's a chance they attack this guy and kill him, and then you're out a big bad guy. And this is one of the things you could be doing. So I overpowered him. I didn't overpower him, but I gave him a stat block that was really going to be tough for anything below level 7, is what the encounter builders I'd made with him said. Level 7. That's when you're going to have a fair fight against this guy. So I had his stat block, and then I pinned 2 gigantic bugbears on either side of him. A warrior, big, huge, strong warrior with special looking gear, and then a big bugbear with a wizard staff on the other side of him, looking very eloquent, didn't say a word. Okay, so he's got these 2 big thugs, big dudes next to him, and himself. And he was arrogant, and he was rude, and I made sure the characters knew this was a very, very powerful looking man. And he came in and taunted, and just taunted him. You have something that belongs to me, pointed at the dragon a bunch of times. You're going to give it to me. Look, you're going to give it to me or I'm going to kill you. Those are your options. I don't want to kill you. I just want my dragon back. You went through, you kind of pissed me off. You swept into a cave with people who work for me, and you took something from me. I don't really want it to get bloody. Just give me back the dragon. It's easy. And so there was some back and forth, some fun conversation. All the characters I knew were like, we want to attack him. They will smoke us. And so I had planned on, look, if they're going to attack him, they had big attacks. They had big, powerful attacks. And I knew that this wizard had some attacks that would eliminate a couple people in one foul swoop, hoping that it wouldn't outright kill him. And they could just knock everyone unconscious and leave him without the dragon, maybe put a note by him. Better luck next time or whatever with the guy's name on it, and just leave him on the side of the road. And what ended up happening and what was fun about it, this table I just didn't feel connection for the previous couple sessions. He took the dragon, and the second he took the dragon and they separated, they went different ways. Above table, all the characters are like, well, we are going to kill the crap out of that guy. We are going to get to a point where we can find him. And when we find him, we are going to do all the things. And it's all they talked about. It was so fun because it was all they talked about at the table when they had moments. They were in combat later at the table, in a combat, basic combat, nothing crazy. And this was 2 hours later in our session. And one of the characters looked at another one and was like, look, this is the attack I'm going to do to try to chop that guy's head off. And I was like, we're in the middle of a different combat in a different place for something that is not as related. And you're still talking about how in attacks, you're planning on killing this guy. It brought the table back to life. So introduce a big bad guy, give the characters someone to hate together. And I felt like it really brought the table together better than anything else I had done at the table. So there's a little tip for you, something that I've learned now firsthand from a game just a few nights ago. I'm already excited for Tuesday night to get back out at the table and see how long it takes for them to mention this guy. They're going to clear through this dungeon they're in right now. And when they're done with it, I'm assuming they're already going to start trying to find info on this mercenary for sure. Okay, the other thing I wanted to bring up, I think this was kind of cool. Again, reading books, reading blogs, watching YouTube stuff, you might hear you're creating a story together with your table. Now, there's going to be bigger, broader reasons than what I'm going to say to you. But one of the little things that happened at my table as well on Tuesday night that I thought was kind of cool was the fact that there was a kidnapping that took place, and the characters came back to this town after having ran into this mercenary, and there was a kidnapping. And I had planned on this kidnapping. This family got kidnapped, and the family got kidnapped, and there was a tip as to where they were taken to. We don't need to get into the details on all that, but there was a kidnapping, period. And so I gave them the area they needed to go where it was assumed these people who had been kidnapped were being held. Fine. My characters are like, we want to go to the house they were kidnapped from and look for clues. And I'm thinking in my head, well, we had not planned on this. It ended up being that the bad guy that they had ran into, he had kidnapped these people for information and dropped them off at one of his cronies had dropped them at a cave there. He was not going to be there. This was a throwaway thing. He said, look, you gave me this dragon. I'm going to give you a tip. I just did it. I kidnapped these people and took them to this cave. So there you go. You did something nice for me. You gave me the dragon. Now I've given you the location of these people I just kidnapped. I can't tell you if they're going to be alive or not, but I just wanted to extend an olive branch, right? Just a little bit of taunting. Like, you gave me something, I gave you something, but the something I gave you is that I'm just terrible and I kidnap people from the town you're in just to build how much they hate this guy. Anyways, they go and they're like, we're going to inspect this house. I was like, well, I'm not ready for that to happen. I haven't planned on this house to get inspected. Let's see what happens. So they go and we do a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I just assumed you got kidnapped in the middle of the night, period. Well, there's Sherlock Holmes in it. There had to be noise. People had to see him. Did anyone see him? What's going on? Well, if they didn't see him, then something magical maybe happened. And I'm going, oh, crap. My brain just told myself they got kidnapped in the middle of the night, period. That's it. And you know where to go. But they wanted to figure out some stuff. So they start building this story in their head of how this kidnapping was going. And the thing kind of clicked in my head where I said, oh, this is part of it. They're building the story. I don't have to sit here and admit, guys, I didn't have any of that in my brain. Guys, what you just thought of is really cool. I didn't think of that. Sorry, I just had a regular kidnapping. I just went with it. I was like, yeah, you guys, that's right. That's how that happened. That's amazing that you got that. That's amazing that you knew that. And then there was a couple rolls in there. They rolled real well, so that added to it. And by the end of it, they had built the story of the kidnapping. They had figured out how this thing that I had no concept of. They had figured out how they got in the house. They figured out what rooms they figured out what rooms they went in first. And then they were like, one of them was said, okay, well, there had to be a struggle. And I'm thinking in my head, oh crap, there probably had to be a struggle. What do I do? I'm not ready for these answers. And the gal at the table goes, it was probably the two, I forget if they were bugbears or orcs. I'm probably going to need to look that up. The two bugbears that were with him, one of them had a wizard staff. He probably cast sleep. And if that's the case, it takes components to cast. And I forget what they are, rose petals, or I forget what it is. She goes, if there's components, maybe that we'll find some around on the ground. Yeah. Right, I didn't have any of this planned. I go, okay, roll investigation. 2 investigation rolls. I think someone got a 19 or an 18. I was like, yeah, you guys have figured it. It's amazing how good you guys are at solving mysteries. You do find that on the ground right outside of the bedroom. They're celebrate at the table. They all celebrate. They're like, we got it. We figured it out. Yes, they put them to sleep. And I thought, that's what we're talking about. Let the players get creative. They are creative at your table. They're playing the game for a reason, and you can lean on that a lot of times. So it worked for me. There it go. I said this was going to be short. Now it's not. I do want to close up today with, that's just a tip. It does happen. The characters are going to help you write your story, and it's a really cool thing. And now we have community at our table between the GM and the players in a shared experience. It's really cool. Okay. I want to read this from Gaming Treasure Chest. Left this on the last video, new Dungeon Master tips from a new DM. I think we all go through feeling like an imposter when we start DMing, not sure if people like what we are doing. But like with everything, it takes time, and you only improve by doing and learning as you go. As a dungeon tuber too, I get the frustrations you can sometimes feel, but the main thing is do you enjoy it? If so, keep at it. Great video. Thank you, Gaming Treasure Chest. You can check out Treasure Chest at Gaming Treasure Chest. His latest video was from last week. It says Dungeons and Dragons Jargon Explained. I enjoy his videos. I enjoy their videos a lot. Very good channel, Gaming Treasure Chest. I'd recommend it. There was also one from the Bard's College that said, it sounds like you're growing as a DM and content creator. My biggest advice for the content side of things is that if you really want to grow your channel, focus a lot on your thumbnails and titles. Now, there was a lot more to his comment. It's really good. I suck at thumbnails. You're looking at the thumbnail for this one. I suck at them. I had this theory coming in that I was just going to have these generic thumbnails. They're not great. So that might be something we work on. But between these comments in this last week, one thing I noticed with Dungeon Tube, a lot of people have been quitting it. And a lot of people are stepping away from it, changing their channels. And I get that. And it's a weird space, right? It's a weird space. I don't know why that is. This channel is going to keep going how I'm doing it. It's just going to be, it's just very raw. It's me explaining what I'm learning week by week at my table, things that work. And hopefully there's another person out there who's trying to get into GMing or trying to get into D&D. And this channel inspires them to run a game or play a game. And that's what this is. And I'm not going to get into the news, and I'm not going to get into ripping on any game or being negative about any rules or any announcements. This is going to be this is going to be ridiculously positive channel. And that's how I want to do this. But the other thing I got to remember is I am doing this because it's fun. And I need to remember I got into playing this game and wanted to run this game because of watching people on YouTube and their videos from years and years and years ago. So this is just me returning the favor into the bucket with a newer date on it. And hopefully someone who's scrolling online, they go, look, that video is from 10 years ago. Is it still relevant? And they see, oh, this one was from 2 months ago. And it's this knucklehead who's never done this and he's brand new to it. But maybe that inspires them because it feels current and recent. And then they'll realize they can go back and watch, any of the old content that's evergreen on how to run a campaign and how to run a game, and run a table or play. Okay, thanks for checking it out. I told you it was going to be shorter. It wasn't. 16 minutes. Thanks for watching.